everybody. Welcome back to the Damn Yankees Podcast, produced by Seven Ashes Productions. It is Thursday, June 29th. My name is Megan. That's my brother, Ryan. And over there is our baseball dummy, Cliff.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. So it's been a minute since we did this. And so there's a lot to talk about. So we can just dive right in, I guess.
Yeah. I think there's 3 series. We just wrapped up one today since we last talked, right? I think it's 3 series.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Seattle, Texas, and now the A's
And Oakland.
Just finished today. Yeah. So they won all 3 of those series, and which, if you listen to our last podcast, I wasn't very convinced. I would have been happy for them splitting the Texas and Seattle series, but they actually beat one of the best teams in baseball, especially one of the best offenses in baseball in the Texas Rangers. So that was definitely positive. Hitting still looked kind of anemic, which we'll go into a little later, but at least in the beginning part of these 3 series, and then they kind of turned it up. And
I think if we had gone over the 3, if I had made my prediction for the 3 series, of course we want to sweep. Oakland, and that was probably my hope and expectation with that. But with Aaron Judge out, never really knew. So if we had gone 5-4 over that span, I think that would have been good. But instead, I think we went 6-3 over that 9-game span.
Yeah. So you can't be mad about that. They probably, right. They should have swept Oakland. They probably shouldn't have dropped the first series. There was no, I didn't even watch that one actually, but there was just no hitting. I mean, what they lost to Oakland 2-1.
You chose the right game not to watch.
Yes, I did.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yes. So overall very good. Especially with Aaron Judge out, they've won 3 series in a row, and definitely last week, I'm sure we were pretty doom and gloom, and not that I think things have completely turned around. I think I need to see a little bit more, but I feel a bit better about the Yankees' chances going forward than I did last week. So that's an improvement. Yay.
Yeah. And just a quick recap of the first 2 series. I think we're going to dive a little bit more into Oakland, but since Seattle and Texas were a little bit more dated at this point, just quick recaps there. Cole, we had talked about it when we were doing the power rankings, but Cole was able to right the ship for the Yankees. And was that Jhony?
Yeah, there's a car outside, so Jhony had to
let them know.
Make her presence known. Yeah.
So Cole righted the ship there, had a really good outing versus Seattle in the first game, and then Brito in the second game. He beat Castillo with the help from Bowers and McKinney.
Castillo.
What did I say?
Castillo.
I'm sorry. I knew what I meant. But yes, he beat Castillo, not Castillo. Anyway, so that was game 2 there, and then Herman went out and got shelled. I think that was the second time he had gotten shelled.
This was
got shelled against Boston.
Yeah, 7 earned runs against Boston, and I think it was 8 earned runs against.
15 earned runs total in his last 2.
Yeah, and I think 2 runs he gave up that weren't earned in one of those games.
I think it was Seattle. I think he total gave up
10
9 runs,
10. Oh, I thought one of them was 10.
10 runs.
But
10 runs.
He gave up a lot
earned.
of freaking runs in those 2 games. 15 runs earned into those 2 games, definitely. So bad.
That was the 3 games in Seattle. And then we moved on to Texas. And like you said, it was a little worrisome because weren't
Texas
really
is
hitting
the
that
best
well.
offense in the
And the
league. We
best
just
offense
gave
in the
up
league right
15
now,
runs to, yeah,
Seattle.
yeah,
But first game didn't go too well. I think King blew the game in extra innings.
yeah. And I think there was a lot of offensive blunders. Like there's a drop ball I remember between like IKF and Volpe, I think, and
right.
yeah. So there was like, and so yeah, and it was a close game. So like all those defensive? Did I say offensive? Defensive blunders,
but
kind of screwed us up a little bit. Yeah.
yes. But then Sevy came out along with 4 other pitchers and shut out the Rangers, which was good. I mean, one, shutting out the Rangers at all is really good because, like you said, they're the best, or they had been to that point, the best offense in baseball. So to shut them out is really good. Sevy led the way there, but we kind of needed to because McKinney was the only buddy who did anything. He hit a solo homer, and that was the only run of the game. So the only way to win that game was for a shutout. And then King got his redemption in that last game.
Yeah.
Clutch at bats from Volpe, Bader, and Stanton. I think Bader, that was the game where he had that clutch hit shortly after the clutch grand slam from the Gators in their
That's right.
only World Series win, unfortunately.
But yeah.
Unfortunately,
so right.
The Gators kind of had that same. I felt bad because I kind of accidentally predicted it, but they had the same fate as the Angels did when they played the Rockies.
I know.
Game 2, the Angels slaughtered the Rockies. I think they beat the Rockies in that series like 32 to 12 in like run differential, and still lost the series 2-3.
Yeah, they scored 25 runs in one of those games. So, the Gators did very similar. They scored 24 runs in their in Game 2 of the College World Series. In a little bit, I'm going to defend them. They are not the Angels. In Game 1, Langford was inches away from getting the game-winning hit in the 10th inning. I think it was the 10th.
Yeah.
But their right fielder made a terrific play. I forget his name right now, but. So, that was sad. That was a letdown. But the Gators had a very good day. The same day the Yankees came back and rallied in the 8th inning. That was also very exciting. So something that, because the offense had been so slow and sluggish, that was a great surprise. And I'm like, oh, well, hello there.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was, is there anything really else to update? I mean, maybe we can talk about Volpe a little bit, but I feel like Volpe kind of goes into the Oakland series too. Hitting very well.
Volpe's improved since he's had chicken parm, so we can go into more detail about that. But that's basically, that's it. So those 2 series were better than expected, and then the Oakland series was 2 out of 3. So that's good. And then do we want to talk about the offensive struggles here, or the other drama?
We can, yeah. Do you want to go into that?
Offense. So I think that's more natural, right? Volpe's been hitting better, so we can just talk about that now. So since, what has it been? 2 weeks? In the last 2 weeks?
It's been 14 games, and I had it written down on a notepad.
That's what I'm getting.
I think I sent it to you too, but. It did not. It doesn't include today, but he went 3 for 4 today. Yeah,
I mean, he has definitely his hitting has improved tremendously.
I'm here.
No problem. I'll just talk to the chair right there. I'll talk to Taylor in the background. No, you're good. In the last 7 games, Volpe's batting average is .429, on base percentage is .520, and his slug is .524, which that's okay. We don't need his slug to be that high. In the last 15 games, his average is .341, on base is .431, and slug is .523. I don't have his on base or his OPS. I mean, right now,
OPS before today was 9. in those 14 games, or 13 games previous to this one, so it's up a little bit more. His OPS in those 13 games post Chicken Parm game is 935.
Very good.
And I think I read that he ranks top 5 among all shortstops since
he had Chicken
game.
Parm. Yes.
Yeah. So I think we need to get.
What we keep referencing is, Austin Wells had like dinner with Anthony Volpe, and Austin Wells is a catcher in our
Double A. Yeah, in Double A.
Yeah, in Double A. He's, so he played a lot with Volpe when they were both in Double A. And Austin Wells is a highly ranked prospect for himself. And
I do think he is a year older than Volpe, or maybe
even a year older.
Years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Volpe's young. So, I mean, he came straight out of high school through the farm system. So I'm not sure about Austin Wells. But, I mean, he might have just been there for longer. But anyway, yeah. So they went through Double A together. And he's struggling. Volpe is, as everybody saw. So, I don't know. They just wanted to have dinner together and catch up. And Austin Wells tells him, hey, did you know that you're, like, flying open on your hip over here? Like, did you know that? And so Volpe in the next game has like a Stanton stance where he puts his back foot a little further back behind him, and so that his right hip is closed off at the plate. His left hip, left hip is closed off a bit. Yep, gets 2 doubles that first game. I think he, had a couple of games where people were like, that was just one game, and then
Red Sox series.
Okay, yeah, which just
Red
sucked
Sox
for
series,
everyone.
He went 1 for 9 in that Red Sox series. But outside, if you take that series out, like he's hitting almost 400 if you take out the Red Sox series.
Yeah. So I mean, whatever adjustments that he ended up having to make, and then he went right back to getting on base all the time. I think he did get his first caught stealing. Was it in the Oakland series? But it was in a recent series, first caught. But, whatever. I'm glad he's running on the bases again. For a little while, they had him stop running on the, or he just wasn't. I don't know. But
he in that time too, because I was trying to get an idea of exactly everything he did during the since Chicken Parm.
Okay.
Game. He had not stolen a base for about 13, 14 games. So yesterday, during that game yesterday, was his first stolen base in almost 2.5 weeks.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, but glad he's stealing base again. And
he was a lot more aggressive on the base paths today. I think he stole another base today, and he got caught stolen, I believe. He's just being a lot more aggressive on the base. He's also seeing the ball really well.
I mean, there was an at-bat today that, like, I think we were on the phone at the time, and like I was like, "Ooh, what are you like?" He kind of waved at a pitch that I think was like some sort of breaking pitch. I'm really bad at identifying pitches for baseball, but like the next one, he just kind of like went the opposite way with it and just kind of flipped his bat at it. It looked really good, and but it went kind of like, just hung in the air a little bit too long, so that right fielder caught it. But it was a hit. Good swing, and he went through. You said 3 for 4 anyway, right?
I think 3 for 4 plate appearances. So I think he was 2 for 3. Because the one of them was a walk. Yeah,
right.
So I was thinking one was a walk. So so he had 2 hits. I believe one was a double, one was a single. A stolen base. I think he did get caught stealing today. I think today was his first caught stealing. I believe, but I could be wrong there. But I know double, single, walk, and then that out. So another really good day. I mean, again, I had done these numbers for everything before this game, the 13 games prior, so I did not have today's game. So if I were including that, the other thing that's really significant for Volpe is his strikeout number. Has been, especially last month, was like in the 30% clips. And it was even getting as high as like 34% to start off this month. Since the chicken parm game 2 weeks ago, I don't know what else to call it other than he went like it's just what people are calling it now. It's the chicken parm game. He is
everybody on the Yankees needs to eat chicken parm because clearly it works.
And since then, he has under 25% strikeout clip. Seeing that ball much better. His walk percentage is over 15%.
That's much better. I mean, when he was struggling, it was like it was either he'd hit a ground ball or strike out, or a high fly ball, and then we get the random home run. Yes, a lot of whiffs outside the zone, and just it just didn't look like he was seeing the ball right. Part of his game is getting on base, working the count, and was not doing that.
And I think maybe a little bit of what was going on for him is I think he was trying too much to hit for power. Because his home run percentage was not bad. Like he was
not
hitting
affected,
balls
really
well. In this, and you can kind of tell because in this 14 game period where he's done very well hitting the ball, he's only had one home run.
I see that.
So
you're right.
And that's not a knock on him. He's a line drive hitter, and so when he's trying to hit home runs, it's just not his game. And so
right. And I think I do think there was some change there that he was trying to make or trying to overcompensate, or just all the adrenaline. You're the Derek Jeter of today, and la la la, all that. Not that he didn't ever look like he got the pressure, like made the sorry.
He never showed it.
Right. Thank you. It was like it didn't get to him. It never looked like it got to him, other than their performance, which I guess is a giant thing. But his demeanor, I guess, is my point, stayed good, and so kept working on it. Had some chicken parm, and here we are. So let's hope this Volpe stays. And he's figured out the adjustment. He'll probably need to make more adjustments down the line too. But glad to see some of the Yankee or Volpe haters shut up a little bit.
I mean, it's good to see that I think that there is a lot of things that we can say about the front office, the management of this team. There's a lot of problems. If you want to look at those problems, go ahead and watch our previous episodes where we very professionally lay into them. But you have to give credit where credit's due. They have given Volpe 100% confidence since the very beginning. I think he has started the most games on the team out of anybody on the roster. Obviously, that would be Judge up there too, but because of his injuries, he hasn't been able to play. So Volpe has played the most games for the Yankees this season. They have, and I'm sure he feels the pressure as Peraza continues to rake down in AAA. And they're asked, especially during his struggles, they were asked constantly, are you going to bring up Peraza? Are you going to bring up Peraza? Both Hal, Cashman, and Boone have all said no. Volpe is our shortstop. I
think that's important for... Yeah, I mean, they see Volpe as their future shortstop, so it's important that he feels the confidence of his manager and the front office and doesn't feel like, I think that can really hurt a player to threaten to be sent down all the time. And and I think, we took a while to say maybe he should go down, and I think it was still like maybe he should, because he was just doing so poorly. But I think even we said that at the time, he's still not the biggest worry. Like, he should be able to figure out, our team should be able to handle him figuring out how to adjust to major league pitching.
Yeah.
Without it severely affecting our win-loss record, like the rest of, you got Rizzo, Stanton, Donaldson, DJ, all these people. So I'm glad they held their guns, really.
Yeah. If the front office had asked for our opinion, like, hey, we're going to call up Peraza, Not that they
Yeah.
ever would. But we're going to call it Peraza. Would you rather? And this even being before Chicken Parm came into the equation. Even if with all that, and they had said, would you rather us send down or DFA? Would you rather be Volpe, Donaldson, or DJ LeMahieu? I would have picked either of those two prior to
Absolutely.
Prior to Volpe. It was just more of, at the time, it was just we need to have this discussion because a lot of people were talking about it. I think a lot of fans, it was very polarizing.
Well, and I do think it's valid that, there is a valid argument to say maybe he needs more focused time in AAA to figure out what his stance is. If he's been trying to figure it out this whole time and it's not working, should he go down to AAA? I think it's a valid question, but I do
and of
think
course we also didn't know that there was a batting stance guru down in AA that our hitting coaches couldn't figure out, but he could.
Exactly.
Over some Italian
guy that's paid for it. Well, and I think also what was frustrating about that is like everybody could see it, and I don't know if I was like, oh, your hip's flying open, but I could tell there was something just not right with his stance, because everything's just flying that way. But then but Paul O'Neill is talking about it on the broadcast. You've got people on Twitter that are like, look at this, and they're showing like the difference between his batting stances or like his swings
in the spring training versus now. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, how can all of these people just like very clear, and then like the hitting coach, I don't know. We don't know what's going on, but he's had some,
Yeah. It wasn't just his hip. It was also his arm placement. I think he was,
that's right.
He was up really high when he was struggling. And they told him like, hey, drop the arms back down because that's where you were a bit more. And for some players, like they can't get their arms up. Like that distracts them or it gets them tense. When
right. Like Rizzo's like down here, like he's probably the most like low
and his
hands
relaxed. Aren't even like gripping. They're like very loose and goose.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's very loosey goose up there. But yeah, so yeah, he fixed it. Sorry. That was really abrupt, but it's good. Good to see adjustments made. I think the other thing we wanted to talk about before Cliff starts yelling at us to move on was that Brito had a really good outing after
two good outings.
Yeah, that's right. 2 very good outings after he was brought back up, and previously when we saw him, he was giving up lots of runs and struggling.
Yeah, they worked on his a couple of his pitches. I think he was throwing less changeup, but the changeup was more was more of what we wanted from him. I think we had talked about it before. His changeup was kind of going more down the middle. It was going down the middle and staying in the middle, where now it was getting to the side and moving off the plate. So he was throwing it less, but it was more effective when he threw it. Threw his fastball a bit more, and I think he threw a bit more slider as a breaking ball.
He had an
curveball. I don't know which one. He threw a bit more of a breaking ball than he had previously.
Yeah, I knew his pitch mixes had kind of changed since the last time he was up, and that seemed to surprise. What was it, Texas, right? That he pitched against, and so I was like, well, that's good then. So yeah, it was really good to see him back up and pitching like he pitched early on when he was new to the league and people hadn't adjusted to him. So
and now he was sent back down for Ian Hamilton, correct?
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah, so Ian Hamilton is back, so we get what was it called? The slam. What was it called?
The Slambio.
The Slambio.
Slambio.
Slambio. How do you say it?
Slider and Cliff might know how to say it better. The chambio. It's a Spanish
cambio
word. Cambio. There you go.
Yes. So
means change.
Yes, and that's the pitch.
Which is something apparently very new. I think John Boy had said it too, that like for like fans, we always call it changeup. Announcers call it changeup. Everybody calls it changeup outside of the locker room, but not the players. So that's where Slambio comes from, because they don't call it a change up there. They call it a
Cambio. I say
cambio.
right.
Sorry, Cliff.
Love you.
So anyway,
Yes. So yeah, that was the good stuff. We were gonna talk about the Josh Donaldson drama, I guess, right?
yes.
Sorry, there's a bug in here. Josh Donaldson was benched 3 games in a row for all of the Rangers series. Yes,
Yes.
I think that's right.
Which was surprising too, because Evaldi, at the very least, he has a really good OPS against.
Right.
And
we know Boone likes to play the matchup numbers and, get people in there when they can
be effective, and
when they can be effective according. Yep. And this comes right on the heels of, I think I wrote it down, but this comes on the heels. I mean, this is how long it's been since we talked. The Brian Cashman interview and the pregame interview that he gave, or answered questions. This is the interview where he told us that he was going to give Josh Donaldson more runway. He wanted to see what he had in there, I guess, or wanted to give him more chances. I forget exactly. I know we want to give him more runway was the big
quote. Yeah.
Yeah, and what everybody got mad about, which I totally understand.
But it seemed like Boone kind of overridden. Which I was
he says this,
because Boone doesn't normally do that kind of thing.
Not normally, yeah. So it was like, that's interesting. Cashman says we want to give him more runway, want to give him more consistent at bats, and Boone's like, okay, you're benched for the next 3 games. Now, in fairness to, you don't need to give fairness to Boone in that respect. I'm not upset that they benched him, but he also had pretty bad defensive errors, I think, in the previous game, or some point in the previous. I think it was the 3rd game of the Seattle series. And I might be wrong on that, but I know he had a pretty bad defensive play in the field that costs, runs and just, and then his batting is just awful. So it's like, yes, please sit him. He doesn't need to be in over pretty much anybody. And one of the things too that Boone, to give him credit with this decision, one of the biggest knocks on Boone is he's never leaves players accountable, which is kind of the opposite of previous manager Joe Girardi, where he was a little bit overly critical of his players, where it ended up, even though they were a very successful team, kind of losing the locker room a little bit during 2017, and which has ended up causing Girardi to essentially get fired. On top of that, he was also not very. He didn't listen to much of the nerds in the front office. Yeah. And so that's why Boone was brought in, because he was kind of like the opposite of all that. But yeah, I mean, in this case with Donaldson, he surely made sure to give him a bit of accountability. And while we're talking about the accountability, Torres is kind of given that a little bit too. He back-to-back days as a DH, coming off of a couple games in Texas where he had some really bad boneheaded defensive plays, and
base running.
I was going to say base running plays. He missed a Simeon caught. It was a great catch by Simeon,
but it was one of those as a base runner you shouldn't be running.
Yeah, I mean, he was on second, and he doesn't make sure that the ball does hit the grass before he goes to third, and he's, and
I can
doesn't
almost
even realize he's out.
If there is somebody on first,
right?
If there was a guy on first base, and so you kind of feel like you got to go so that you're not holding them up, but there's nobody on first. You don't necessarily. Obviously, if the ball hits the ground, you want to get to second, and if the ball hits the ground, you want to get there, or you want to get to third. And you want to have the opportunity to score, but
and when the team
need to get doubled up.
We don't need to get outs at third, I guess at second, but because you went to third, and when the team is struggling like they are to make runs, or make runs, I'm
runs.
doing really good today, to score runs, and to have make some offensive production. Maybe that's what to do something, create plays on the bases, and so we know when Torres tries to do a little too much, he makes mental mistakes, and whether that's, thankfully, I'm really glad, knock on wood, it doesn't seem to have affected his
hitting.
His offense is still good. It's just now we're being a head case in the field lately, and it's like we kind of need you to be better there. But I mean, since since the offense is generally doing so poor, I have a more lenient stance on his fielding. But there have been glaring mistakes in the field that you just can't.
Yeah, and props to Boone for for doing that to Torres, to holding him accountable and saying, hey, you're going to not play the field for a couple games. And then going back to Donaldson, he did the same there with holding out an entire series and saying, you need to fix, essentially you need to fix this. I don't care how good you are against Nathan Eovaldi. And good for the Yankees for proving that, hey, we're going to hit without you. In fact, that they hit better without him there. Maybe that worked a little bit for here in Oakland, the game here in Oakland, but
right. He seems pretty pissed off. I mean, I didn't get to see the post-game interview yet, because we don't get to see that because of MLB TV. They don't, so we have to wait till they get posted on Twitter, and I didn't see them, but people were saying that Donaldson looked pissy when his post-game interview with Meredith. So still,
today,
even after so Donaldson had a good game today, and we complaining in the beginning of the game because he hadn't hit with runners in scoring position, or or if he did hit with runners in scoring position, it was when we were up by 10 runs already. So today,
on the first game of this series, which we'll get into a bit more about the series in general, but on Donaldson's side of things, first game of the series. Now, it can't fault him too much. A 2-0 game, a solo home run, obviously cuts that deficit in half.
That's not really the... But then he does nothing with runners on base later,
right.
Yeah. And then that's not all up to him, but
but that's the knock on him.
It's
just
frustrating.
Continuously that way. I don't know how many of his home runs this season have come with no one on base, and I think this is his first home run with runners on base.
Yeah, I think all of them except for just this last one. They've all been solo, and because he was 0 for something with runners in scoring position. I don't remember, 10, 9, something like that with runners in scoring position. And then we were, that was the stat. We were 0 for 9 until today when Donaldson homers. Before today, we'd lost every game. So it's great, you homered, but what else did we do?
Well, he homered yesterday, didn't he? Didn't he get a solo homer?
Maybe I'm thinking that it stopped yesterday. I just know that prior to one of these games in the Oakland series, we were 0 for 9, I think.
Yeah, I know he had hit a home run. Every time he's hit a home run, we were losing. And we were losing by a lot. With the exception, so I think he hit a home run in all 3 games against Oakland. It just took until this one where it actually mattered today. For the game.
Real quick, sorry, I forgot what I had written down, so not to bounce around too much. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Like I said, doing really good today. The comments from Cashman, I know everybody was, mad about them. Nobody wants to give him any more runway, but I do have to wonder if that is them holding him accountable and saying, yeah, we're going to give you some more runway. We're going to give you some more rope to hang yourself with because you're insisting that you can figure this out, but you haven't. And, then they make these comments, we're going to give him more runway before the game. And then the boos every time he strikes out are louder. They're not stupid. They couldn't not know that was going to happen, right? I don't know if that's their intention, but that's going to happen. You're going to say these things. You're going to get the fans pissed off that you want to give him even more chances to strike out looking or, looking like a fool up there most of the time. And And then he does. So there's a chorus of boos. Like the boos that day, that for that game, were so loud.
We're loud. That was the last day of the Seattle series, right?
Yes, and I think that was the last game he played until Oakland, because he also made some bad errors later on in the game, and it was deafening in there.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Yeah, and so part of that too, I'm sure, from Boone's side is like, we need to get you out so that way, like, we can have someone in there that can focus without, boos reigning over, because that affects the players, the other players,
especially
too.
Going into the Rangers series, and
Yeah.
So I'm glad Boone did sit him. If it was just to protect him, that's cool. And then at the end of that series, was it that series?
Yeah, it was the last game. He wasn't in the dugout. He had a long meeting with Boone, where Boone was actually late to his press conference.
Yeah, he was ended up being like a half hour late to the press conference, and right before, Josh Donaldson's like, I can't talk right now in like the open availability time or whatever pregame.
Yeah,
he's like, I can't talk right now, and like goes straight to Boone's office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was nothing that comes from it. Like nothing, we didn't know nothing of it other than, like, I think Donaldson saying you're taking too much out of that, and
which
you're
of course
just
is what
talking
they're going
about
to
baseball
say.
Stories or something like that. It's like,
I mean, I'm not sure how anybody can believe that. We all know Donaldson. There were I remember watching a podcast when we got him, and they were trying to be positive about getting Donaldson. I think they were trying to find any reason that having Donaldson, it would be good. He has this great potential, former MVP, la la la, everything they tell us, and they were like, also, he might insist on being in a consistent spot in the lineup. Like, he's such a hothead that if he gets moved around too much, he might go into the office and yell at Boone and tell him, no more. So, in that same respect, so he already has this like air about him that he would do that kind of thing. So I have no doubt in my mind that he saw the lineup. He wasn't in the lineup for a third day in a row, and he marched straight into Boone's office and said, "What is going on?"
Especially against Evaldi.
Yes, that was the Evaldi game.
Somebody who he's done very well against, and I think even in this Oakland series, he hasn't been his typical 5 spot. And maybe I hope maybe Boone had said to him, "Look, we're going to get you back in Oakland in a place where, one, there's not going to be many fans at. It's an away park, and
less booing.
Something that a stadium that that's where Donaldson made his major league debut.
Oh, okay, good point.
And played for a few years at. So maybe it's just more of a comfort zone for him.
Mm-hmm.
And said, but look, you're not coming in as our number 5 because you kill our rallies every time." And I'm obviously putting into words of a meeting that we don't know.
We have no idea what was said. But yeah,
I hope it was said to him, look, you are batting 135. You suck. And we're going to, if we put you in, you should feel grateful that you're in the lineup that day. Because the way you play right now has not earned that. So, if that is what is said, he stepped up again. I mean, he hit a couple of home runs that were inconsequential in the first 2 games. He did make some really good defensive plays on the second game, which we're going to talk a bit more about in a little bit. He
homered in 2 games. He homered in the first and third game of the series.
Okay, so he didn't homer in the second game.
Right. Okay. But I think he was productive in the second game. He was 1 for 4. And I think that those 2 RBIs when he was 1 for 4 came when we were up.
That's what I must be thinking
by a
about.
lot.
I think I had saw that he got a hit with runners in scoring position, but it was where we were already up. Today, of course, though, he had a 2-run homer that ended up starting our offensive productions to win today. So.
Okay, there you are.
Good on him to be able to be a bit more productive. So anyway, just to my point was just that Donaldson stepped up this series, whether it was that the fans weren't there, an atmosphere he was more familiar with, whatever it is, he definitely played much better in this series. We're going to need to see it more consistently, though. We can't get back to New York and still be hitting, 0 for whatever, and only get a solo home run when we're down by 10. So
yeah, I mean, and I do think it is good that the Yankees see it, because this is the first time, this series was the first time he batted below fifth, at least this year for the Yankees, and I think ever last year. I don't remember him ever hitting below fifth.
I don't remember it either.
So I think that speaks volumes, especially to a guy like Josh Donaldson, who has sort of that older school mindset kind of thing. And, so placement in the lineup matters to him, fifth, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I think it's the Yankees' way of trying to hold him accountable without creating a PR nightmare, or at least trying to contain the PR stuff as best as possible. That's what they do. So.
I think it might be time to move off from Josh Donaldson.
Oh, okay. I guess we could talk about him forever.
To be fair, I don't really want to talk about him anymore anyway.
That's true. I just there's so much.
I mean, you say that.
Yeah.
I know. There's just so much anger in there that I could vent about him all day.
Sure.
But another drama-filled situation, and also very exciting and a historical one. Domingo Germán pitched a perfect game in yesterday's game 2. Thank you, against Oakland. So very cool. Only the fourth Yankee ever to do it. Yes, very, very cool. It is super cool to watch as it happens.
Yeah, as it happens, not watching it the next morning.
I was a good sister, and I texted you.
So, real quick story behind that. So, why this is so frustrating, because I told Laura Grace this in the morning. I was so mad when I found out. And she was like, well, why are you mad? They won. That's a great accomplishment. And of course it's a great accomplishment. But I don't think she realizes that or many people realize that perfect game is probably the most rare thing to happen in sports. It's a 0.01% chance that
I was just like, I'm going to find this.
But 0.01% chance that any pitcher that's taking the mound could pitch a perfect game that day.
And what the other things that came out were like, I don't know. All these
it's
other
more likely to score a perfect SAT score than it is to watch a perfect game. It's more likely, the likelihoods of things that you would be surprised with. It is more likely to do certain things than it is. I'll
look for it, because it is pretty, to put it in perspective, it is, just pretty remarkable how rare it is. And in all of baseball history, all of it, only 24 pitchers have, including now Domingo Germán, have pitched a perfect game. So, all these people it was against the A's, who the hell cares, or, anything like that, or just kind of
pitchers have gone up against the A's this year
and have not thrown a perfect game, let alone a no-hitter. I mean, a perfect game means 0 runs, 0 hits, 0 errors, 0 walks. All of that has to be 0. Nobody on base.
Single person that gets on base. So
why can't I find it? I'm having trouble finding it. I saw it, scrolling along. Someone wrote an article about, this is exactly how rare it is to put it. Aha, got it. So a hockey player has a 5% or greater chance of scoring a coveted hat trick. They get them getting 3 goals in a game. MLB, you have a 0.13 chance of throwing a no-hitter. So also very rare, but still 0.13. You have, shifting to basketball, the chances of an NBA player surpassing 60 points in a single game is a mere 0.06%, and throwing a perfect game in MLB is 0.01%. So, to put other things in perspective, to just know how rare it is and how everything has to be perfect and go to get to a perfect game. Everything, there's usually a tremendous defensive play somewhere in the game, and there was with this one.
Anthony Rizzo.
Yep, Rizzo caught a great line drive. It wasn't really a line.
Ground
right
ball.
to his ground ball to his left. He had to dive to get it, and he's
after the
platinum.
game. He's like, I normally don't dive for things like that, so
Yeah, I mean, and this is one of those things where people start realizing around the 4th or 5th inning what the hell's going on, and so then you have that added pressure of, oh my God, what is we know what's going on, and we'll talk about this on a superstitions episode, but you don't mention what is going on.
Yeah, and get big shout out to, is it Rocco?
Ryan
Rucco.
Ryan
Rucco. I watched it today finally. So real quick on that, what happened on my end is.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I went off on a tangent myself, but I had not been feeling well yesterday. Pretty bad migraines on and off. Obviously I had watched the day before of our offensive woes. And this game kind of started off the same way. I don't think anybody had gotten a hit within the first 2 innings. I think IKF got a walk in the second. In the 3rd inning, Stanton hits a home run. He hits a big hold on. Pumpkin. Sorry.
Pumpkin.
He was eating tape, and he does that when he's mad about something. And then he pukes, so I have to.
Oh, yeah, we don't want that.
Sorry. Getting back to it. Stanton hits a home run. It was a really nice home run by Stanton, and I knew that. Okay, so we're now up 1-0, and at that point I'm like, all right, at least I can go to bed now knowing that we're in the lead. And I didn't even think at the time that there was a perfect game, because you just don't think about that when it's, I think, 2 innings in.
Yeah,
especially with Herman, we just talked about his past 2 starts. He's given up 15 earned runs, so it was more of just the fact of, surprisingly, he hasn't given up any runs yet in the first 2 innings.
Sure.
So it's not.
Earlier in the season, I guess it was the go wash your hands game, but earlier in the season, he pitched a no hitter through 5 innings, and then you give it up. So you never know when that's going to happen. Usually, it happens though. That's our point. And so you're not thinking about it until late in the game.
I wasn't even thinking that he had a perfect game, or
it wasn't even
in development yet.
Right.
So we're up 1-0, and I'm like, all right, Stanton's hit a home run. That's nice, but my head is killing me. I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
I think I woke up at 1:00 in the morning to use the restroom, and of course, I'm like, okay, did the Yankees win? And I saw the Yankees won, but then a bunch of other things, and it's like perfect game. And I'm like, oh, who pitched a perfect game? Herman pitched a perfect game. And then I saw your message that was like, are you watching this right now? No.
Yeah. And to be fair, to be fair, I had fallen asleep around the top, I think it was the top of the 7th inning. And I had known it was happening, but I just kind of laid down to get comfortable, which was a mistake. And then I was like, oh, I need to sit up and watch this because, it's a West Coast game. So at this point, it's, close to or past midnight. I don't remember.
It ended past midnight.
So, yeah, so it's probably close to midnight. And, I'm pretty exhausted week. I'm tired. And, so I'm struggling to keep my eyes open. Then I'm like, oh my God, don't fall asleep. So I sat up and it was just watch this. This isn't ridiculous. And I think things that went through my head are, Donaldson will probably screw it up and he'll get an error or
which to his credit, he had gotten several hard hits to him and he made every play. As did Volpe. Yeah. I think the hardest hitting ball that was most likely to be a hit was hit to Volpe on, I think it was off to his left.
Okay,
yeah. 114 mile an hour ground ball in the 8th inning. And
I think I remember that. He did make a really nice play in the 8th inning. What Donaldson also made a nice play on the fielding end. And then because Rizzo is amazing, almost pulled Rizzo off the bag toward the home plate side.
Yeah.
But he kind of, he was able to get, it was
got it.
fine, but I was like, oh my God. So I think it might have been then where I was like, oh no, it comes down to the 9th and Donaldson is going to get it. And of course, the very last
Play.
The very last play is hit to Donaldson to Rizzo. He makes the final out and you get that perfect game. So
yeah. And so I did watch the game this morning, skip through the commercial parts of it. But what I was going to get to is Ryan Rocco.
Rucco.
He was perfect too. Like let's talk about his performance. So we had joked that like Michael Kay in these type of positions, and we'll get more into the superstitions later to get to go more in detail about these type of things.
Yeah.
But
you don't mention a perfect
like
game
Michael
when it's
Kay,
happening. You don't mention a no-hitter.
Yeah. And he does it all the time.
He does it all the time. And, I do understand the perspective of he's a broadcaster. It's his job to tell you what's going on the field. My perspective is trust that your audience knows a little bit about baseball, or that they're sitting with somebody who knows a little bit about baseball that can tell you. I know there's a hard faction of people that are like, jinxes are not real. But for the most part in the baseball world, people do not like hearing on live TV
jinxes are not real?
No, they're wrong. They are absolutely wrong. People don't like hearing on live TV that, Herman's got a perfect game going, and sure in the 6th inning, Michael Kay would have said that. So you're right to give kudos to
he would have said it
Rucco.
earlier than that, I feel like, too. But, yeah, I think in the 4th inning is when we first started hearing Rucco say he's faced the minimum amount of batters to this point. I don't know if you caught that in the beginning. Yeah,
I did.
Mm-hmm. Minimum amount of batters. And, anybody who understands
after
baseball.
After 5, right?
It said
was
it in
that
the
when it
4th
was
inning.
After 5, or he said it in the 4th inning, in the 5th?
He said in the beginning of the 4th inning.
Oh wow! Oh, I do remember him. He's faced the minimum, and it was
to this point. It was very
the 12 batters or the 9 batters. Regardless, batters. You're right. Yeah.
And just
so very good way to say it. You faced the minimum batters. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as we got into the 7th and 8th inning, he was still not using perfect game. I think he had said he's been immaculate so far. He's been unblemished, unblemished, whatever the word is.
Right. No runners have reached base.
No runners on base. Very factual or a synonym to perfect. But he never says perfect. I watched the entire game because you mentioned it beforehand without rewatching it. You had said that he called the game really well without
as soon as you said
anything.
The 12 batter thing. Yeah. As soon as you said the 12 batter, that was my cue of has he? He has. And that was okay. And so he told us in a way of dude, this guy's throwing a perfect game so far. At the very least, he's throwing a no-hitter. I think that was where he could throw a no-hitter. I knew he was throwing a perfect game, but perfect games are so rare. You can't walk anyone.
Yeah. And he came close at one point. I think it was a 3-1 count in the 7th inning.
Yeah, I think I heard Rucco say in today's broadcast that he had only thrown 3 balls to 2 batters, and I think once in the 4th and once in the 7th, like you're saying. Yeah, and it was a 3-1 count. And I think I was watching that one oh my God, no, don't end it like this, no.
Yeah. Big game, historical game. I'd be remiss without at least talking about some of the controversy that's come up today with it.
Yes,
at least
and that was
the polarizing opinions about it. So for people who don't know, we already talked about Herman,
and we've talked about it
this
before.
Season,
yeah,
with the hands
the rosin.
issue. Rosin.
He was ejected.
Supposedly, it was just suspended. Rosin on his end. But even before that, he had 2018 had been given a 60-game. 2019, given a 60-game suspension for hitting his then fiance.
Wasn't it 88 games?
Oh, you might be right. It was more than that.
He served the longest domestic violence at the time, the longest serving, It was at the end of the previous season. So it's probably why you're thinking 2018. And yeah, at the time, this was the longest domestic violence suspension that had been handed out. And it was because it was at CC Sabathia's, like, some charity gala dinner thing. And it was like, there was a bunch of MLB officials. They say MLB officials, and I do wonder if that was Joe Torre, or, because he's in as a office position with MLB. But I don't know, regardless, in front of MLB officials. And then later, like, I think he slapped her at the gala, went home, threatened her more. She felt so threatened, she called a player's wife. I think we still don't know who that was, but one of the players' wives, she called to stay with them because she was so scared. She never pressed charges. She forgave him, according to... Yes, they later got married. And obviously, and I believe forgave him before she married him.
As part of his suspension, MLB ordered him to
do like the
rehab, like a rehab
thing. I think he also did more stuff on his own. I read, like, before this season, I guess they had interviewed him and they said he was working on that and other things about himself. Like, he might, like, I thought I read he had some addiction problem going on at the time of the so all of these things. And so we don't know what he's going through in his personal life. We know a lot about what happened because it happened in front of MLB officials, so it makes it so just gross to know that he's on your team, and you not have to cheer for him, but he's a starting pitcher for your favorite team. You want him to do well. I think we've said before in the past, like, when he doesn't do well, we are very quick to be like, then why are you here? So that is part of my feeling. Kind of
mistake, and it's like, if you're going to make that kind of mistake and the Yankees are going to keep you on, you better be
good. And he can't be any more perfect than he was. Yeah. So, I mean, I do think people are allowed redemption. I do think people are allowed to show that they're changing. And if his wife, I think ultimately, if his wife is chosen to forgive him, then who am I to pass judgment on him? I don't have to like him, but I don't need to judge or, you threw a perfect game for the New York Yankees, and awesome. That I didn't think I'd ever actually, like, I don't remember David Cohn's perfect game. Like, I was around for it, but I don't actually remember it. We were in Florida at the time. I don't even know if it was on TV for us to watch, so.
Yeah, probably not at that time.
It probably wasn't. I probably heard about it the next day. And, so I've never watched one. So watching that was just, and the excitement is like, it was kind of like a playoff game, like, just, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, he could just, one pitch and it could all go away. And, so it was very exciting to watch. There's only 3 other Yankees who have done it. So also side note, this team has the most
than any other team. We
have the most
than team. I was going to say, every year that we have thrown a perfect game, we have gone on to win a World Series. Now, that's just a fact. I'm not saying that means...
It is a fact. The other 3 times, they won the World Series.
Yes.
Also, the other 3 times... all 4 times, every player started with a D. So you got Don Larson, and was it 1959? 1956?
In the World Series.
59. Yeah,
59
that's right. How did I forget that? In the World Series. And then you have David Wells in 1998, the famous, they were drunk the night before and he was hungover and just feeling like crap game, but he threw a perfect game. And then David Cohn, 1999, and now Domingo Germán. So
yeah, and so and real quick, just with Domingo Germán and all the controversy surrounding that, and people not wanting to celebrate him, we should at least celebrate Higgy. He was the one catching the game, calling the game. He's been a lifelong Yankee. He's struggled to be on the team. We've even called for his head to be traded this season. But he's one. He's a great guy, and he deserves to be a part of that history too. So if you can't be happy for Domingo, be happy for Higgy.
Be happy for Higgy. That's true. And this is Higgy's second, in this realm.
No-hitter last year.
Yeah, Corey
Or not last year.
Kluber's, was it last year? Year before,
Year before.
right? Or 2020?
Mhm.
Year before.
I think it was 2020.
Yeah, Corey Kluber's no hitter. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. He's caught 2. No hitters are pretty rare too. So, which we said 0.13% chance of no hitter. But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you want to yell at us now?
Sorry, we cut you off.
Producer Cliff?
I do. We're over an hour now, and Ryan still has not done his.
If this was just a normal Yankees podcast, we got done in an hour. So.
There you go.
We're not done. That's Ryan has power rankings.
Sorry.
It's all right. We knew this was going to go long.
All right. So we're going to do power rankings. Hang with us for another 15, 20 minutes, and you'll hear about our power rankings.
Oh, what a dreamer you are.
Ryan's MLB Power Rankings.
All right, so as usual, we're going to start with the bottom 5, and we'll have a little bit to talk about with the bottom 5 teams. Just maybe some. Each of these teams are likely to be sellers over the next month. Sure. July 1st is trade deadline. So
July 1st.
Sorry, July 31st.
Okay, I was like, well, what the hell? I was like, that can't be right.
So typically, starting July 1st is where we
trade
see season. July 31st is the end of that. So because that is a week away, we're just going to talk about the bottom 5 teams. And as I go through the bottom 5 teams, I'm just going to share a couple players I think we might see with that. Then in a future episode, we'll probably go into a little bit more detail on these. But starting with number 26 is the Washington Nationals. They move up 1 spot. They were 27 last week. So they have a few players, quite a few players that they might sell. A lot of these teams, you're going to hear me say that they are just in need of youth, players that have a lot of arbitration seasons left. Like a lot of team control seasons left. So a lot of prospects. These are what they're going to be. A lot of these teams are going to be looking for. Javier Condoralio. I probably butchered that entirely. He is their third baseman. Apparently, the Yankees are linked.
How is that?
Condoralio. I have no idea, Cliff.
All right.
Rude, Cliff. You said it the best you could the first time.
He's the third baseman. I know he's been linked with the Yankees. Lane Thomas is a lefty outfielder that a lot of Yankee fans have been wanting. That has been given a lot of buzz. Joey Meneses is a DH. I think he also plays some outfield, right field, first base. Is a potential. Dom Smith plays first base, some outfield. Josiah Gray, starting pitcher. Kyle Finnegan, closing pitcher, and Jordan Reams, a relief pitcher. All these guys are coming towards the end of their contract seasons with 1 or 2 years left on their contract or of team control. And so they're going to want to get these guys out to get those prospects. That's going to be kind of a common theme here. Cardinals are number 27. They moved down 2 spots. Again, we've talked about these guys a lot. It's disappointing with the number of stars that they have on this team, how bad they've been. They're going to be not only looking for prospects, but also starting pitching. That is probably their toughest area. They re-signed Miles, a Greek last name, and I'm going to probably butcher it too. So Miles, we're just going to call him. Their ace pitcher has been absolutely terrible this season. And then they also have Adam Wainwright, who's like 41 years old. I think he's retiring this season. So they're going to be looking for some starting pitching. I would not be too surprised if more of their players than just what I've named here, but Paul Goldschmidt, former last season's MVP, first baseman, could be on the market. Nolan Arenado just signed a extension there, but I would not be surprised to hear him being moved to a contender. Dylan Carlson and Lars Nootbaar have been linked to the Yankees, as well as other teams looking for outfield help. And Paul DeJong, shortstop, can also play other positions, could also be moved. Again, players who are in their later 20s or 30s who are at the end of their arbitration, team control, or contracts are expiring that they're going to want to get some money for. Or not money for, prospects for. So that is number 27. Number 28 is the Colorado Rockies. They don't have as many names here, but C.J. Cron, Ryan McClanahan, third baseman, Jurickson Profar, left fielder, and Chris Bryant, if he becomes healthy by then, are all guys that we could see being moved to open up some spots for the Rockies. In number 28 is the Royals. They have some decent players that could be moved. Salvador Perez, catcher, DH. I believe this is his final year on his Royals contract. He's going to be a guy who's been one of the best, if not the best, hitting catchers in the league. As far as like overall, I would say Sean Murphy is probably the best catcher with both. But if we're just looking at hitting, Salvador Perez is very good. Edward Olivares, outfielder, Aroldis Chapman could be traded. He's not having a bad year, though. Not great. Speaking of the Royals and Aroldis Chapman, today, Jose Ramirez stole home straight up to win the game for Cleveland while Aroldis Chapman was pitching.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. He pitched the ball a bit too high. Salvador Perez could not then get the ball from like having to stand up and come back down. Jose Ramirez won the game in extras against Aroldis Chapman.
Crazy. Question. Yeah. Was it close to hitting the batter?
No.
Or was it just high? Okay.
It was this side. It was a righty, so he threw it high left.
High to the left.
High and out.
Batter's box. Okay. There was a theory when IKF stole home that, because you saw how like close it was, I think, to hitting McKinney. Was it? I know it was a left-handed batter who was in the box and he had to like get out of the way. There was just a theory that he threw it like that because he was trying to hit the batter and that would have forced a dead ball to make him go back to third. But so I was just wondering.
No, it was not in that situation. It's not the same with that. Another player that could be moved, Zach Greinke. He's an older pitcher, but he still has some skill. Maybe a team like the Yankees who have starting pitching depth. I'm not saying I haven't heard that the Yankees were looking at him, but a team like that who is a contender needing pitching depth could be interested in a Zach Greinke. Again, all these teams are looking for prospects mainly. And then in last place, no surprise here, are the Athletics. They did get a perfect game for the first time since Cy Young did it. What year, Megan? I think you had said it was like
1903 or something?
Yeah, or something like
1904,
that. 1904,
something really, really long time ago. Over 100 years ago, yeah.
So they're obviously also sellers. Tyler Wade, utility guy, former Yankee. Tony Kemp, second baseman. Roman Laureano, right fielder. Ledmus Diaz, infielder. Jesus Aguilar, Paul Blackburn, and Sam Maul are all potential people that could be moved by.
I'm almost surprised they have so many to be moved since they're
so bad and they've already sold off everybody.
Well, and they've already sold off everybody. Yes, exactly.
So those are all the players, and some of those players aren't necessarily being named, but these are just some of the ones that I know are on those expiring contracts, players that could be moved. Anyway, we're going to move on to our top 10 to not waste too much more time on that. Starting at number 10, first, I want to name a team that fell out of the top 10, and I keep waiting for this team to be the team they've been for however many years, but the Astros fall out of the top 10. I think everybody's just expecting it because the Astros do that kind of thing. They just start winning games, and they never stop. But they're going to be a team that is going to be looking for those starting pitchers over this next month. Probably a first baseman. They might be trying to hope that some team is dumb enough to take their Jose Abreu off their hands. They just signed him, and he's been horrendous. But anyway, they move out of the top 10. Moving back into the top 10 is the Los Angeles Dodgers. They are our number 10 team. They've had a decent week.
Guess I didn't realize they were in third in the NL West. I didn't realize they had dropped.
Yeah,
I knew the Giants had gone on a tear.
Giants.
I just didn't realize that the Dodgers that they'd overtaken them. Yeah.
So that goes to our number 9 team is the Giants. They moved up a spot into number 9. They've been on a tear lately. They had a brief hiccup at the end of the Padres series, but have continued to play very well. I do have the Cincinnati Reds dropping a spot, not to say that they've been playing poorly. They are the NL Central leaders, and they've been still very good. We've talked a lot about Ellie De La Cruz. He's been pretty fantastic there. I do expect they were a team that I was expecting to be a seller's team. I now expect them to be a buyer's team. I know that their closer Diaz, who is the brother of
Edwin Diaz,
the guy who had the famous walkout song last year. He's been in the reports to be traded to the Mets, but with the Mets playing the way they are, I didn't only mention the Mets because they're 25th. They're a team that's getting to that bottom part of the I don't see how they're going to be able to climb their way back up, and they might be sellers. It's just hard for me to see Cohen be a seller at this point with how much money they put in.
Did you see his interviews or his press conference? He had one the other day. Yeah. And he was saying he kind of indicated that he might sell. He doesn't want to, and there's still some time left, but they're running out of time. And
it's I mean, the writing's on the wall. When you're in the bottom 7 teams in the league, and the Braves are doing what they're doing, and these other teams are doing what they're doing. The writing's on the wall. It's time to get some players out, contracts out, and get some new players in.
Yeah, I mean they're 8.5 games out of the wild card.
Yeah,
race.
And it's not even to mention their own,
their own division, their own division. Yeah, 8.5 out of. Yeah, so.
We talked a lot about the Yankees today. They are number 7. That is really why the Reds fall down a spot, is only because of the really good week the Yankees had, and especially a perfect game to cap off the week.
That helps.
That helps. Of course, this was made this morning prior to the second win of the series. So,
did we mention that Stanton has looked a lot better, which has also helped all of these? Probably, get our
and
offensive.
They were talking today that Stanton,
going.
once he gets on a roll, he could carry 2 weeks. And to your credit too, I sent a tweet to you. You've always said it, and I think it's because also Stanton has said it himself. He plays better when he plays in right field.
Yeah,
Katie Sharp sent out some statistics where it proved that his batting average was under 200 when he's only a DH. When he plays right field or left field, he's batting over 250. So I mean, not great because his numbers this year aren't great, but I mean, their difference between DHing and playing in the outfield is enough that I think it matters. So, right. Yeah, and then these next 4 teams are kind of they're a little bit of a separation, even though it is just moving from 7 to 6. There's a bit of a gap between 3 through 6 through that. It's like their own little tier here of Arizona Diamondbacks, Miami Marlins number 5, Texas Rangers number 4, and Baltimore Orioles number 3. You can order those however you want. That's how I ordered them is Baltimore 3, Texas 4, Miami 5, Arizona 6. But all these teams are either leading their division or they're only not leading their division because the next 2 teams are leading their division. But they are all very good teams. They all have very good statistics, whether it be hitting like Texas Rangers, whether it be for Miami, really good on base percentage. Arizona is really good at stealing and defense. Baltimore's pen is very good. Each of these teams should be considered threats to these top two teams for World Series contention. All four teams are going to be serious buyers. The teams below them, like the Yankees through the Dodgers, they're going to be buyers too. But these teams are like one player away from being like the top dog type teams. But moving on to the top dog teams, Tampa Bay falls down a spot to number 2. They have not had a great week, but they still do have the best record in baseball, but it's only by a half game as of this morning. So that could have changed today. They have more wins, but actually more losses than Atlanta. Tampa Bay falls down a spot. The Braves move up a spot to number 1, and they've been killing it this week. They've been on a really good streak. I think they're 9-1 in their last 10 games, and even better if we go beyond that. But that caps off our power rankings for this week.
Yeah, I think
Atlanta
so. Tampa's
moves to number 1.
Yeah,
all right. You kept that under 15 minutes.
Well, how about that? Proving you wrong. Just for the record, Tampa's winning percentage is slightly better still than the Braves.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Since you asked, yeah,
that's what.
But I think Tampa is Tampa's 5-5 again, which like we've talked about previously, they can go 5-5 through the rest of the season and still have a pretty pretty good 5-5. You know what I mean? 500.
500.
Not a good day for me. But yeah, go 500 the rest of the season and still probably win the division, but still at the very least have a very good record. Make the playoffs, have 90 wins 90 plus wins at least before. I don't know the pace in my head, but yeah, so they're okay to cruise. They're not feeling any pressure right now.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I said that those 4 teams are one piece away from being elite. Tampa and Atlanta will also be looking to make moves to keep that separation away from those
Anything
teams. So
to get them.
We'll talk more about some of these things like the superstitions. We'll talk more about the trade deadline that's coming up. What teams might be buyers, what teams might be sellers, what teams are being rumored to take what players from what teams. We'll talk a bit about more in a different podcast later. So stay tuned for all that. I think we'll be, I'm not sure what day we're going to be podcasting next. That's
right. It's a holiday weekend coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, but that doesn't.
Yeah.
Let's see. So they play the Cardinals tomorrow on Friday when this comes out. And then, they go on like a 15 games or I can't count. 10 games before the All-Star break. So there's no off days before the All-Star break. So they go Cardinals, Orioles, Cubs, 4-game set against the Orioles. So we'll podcast in there somewhere if
We'll podcast in there somewhere. And
we'll
also notable today for the Yankees was 81 games halfway through the season.
Oh, we're halfway. Yes.
So,
and what's their record now? Well, yeah, they are 45-36. So, 9.5 games
so
out.
90 game win pace.
But, yeah, they are one of the 2 top wild card teams. Right? Am I reading that right? Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Bader has proven to be an important piece. I hope he stays not injured. And Stanton can continue on his tear, and Rizzo can. Breaking news.
Also
Rizzo
notable,
had to
Rodon,
go through an MRI. Yeah.
By the next time we podcast, we'll probably have had his first start. It's to be coming soon. Don't know what day, but he has made his last rehab start, I believe.
Boone mentioned it that I think he's supposed to start in one of AA or AAA, wherever he's at right now. He'll have one last rehab start.
Oh, so he does have one more rehab start. One
more rehab start, and then they'll get him into a game before the All-Star break, as long as that rehab start goes okay. And then I think they said he would be getting the first game out of the All-Star break.
Okay. So things to be positive about.
Looking out for.
And Judge is also, he started throwing, though he still said that there is some pain in his toe. He did baseball activities on the field. Positives. Yeah, I think we should just go with what the facts are. He did baseball activities. We don't know a timeline. There's been minor, if that, progress. That's what we know. So, anyway, whenever we decide to podcast again, we'll see you then. Keep so that you know when that is. Hit the like button, hit the notification button. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at @DamnYanks_pod and at Facebook at @DamnYanksPod. Whether you watch us on Spotify or watch us on YouTube or listen to us on Spotify, make sure you, like I said, like and notify so that way you know when our next pod is. And like I said, we're going to be doing some of those short react videos as well, where you're going to want to watch, where we talk about things like superstitions and traditions and more. So
weird baseball rules or
whatever. So
all right.
Till next time.
Thanks for listening for over an hour. Yeah. Till next time. See ya.